Hi, Paul Pugliese here with the University of Georgia Extension. Today we're looking at a plum tree. And plums grow fairly well here in Georgia, but unfortunately they do get one particular problem that can be an issue if you let it go too long. In this particular case, this plum tree has what we call a canker disease. And if you look deep inside the branches here, there's actually cankers on several branches all the way throughout the canopy of this tree. And I pulled one out here so you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like without the leaves on it. These cankers are what we call black knot disease, which is actually a fungus that infects the branches and will girdle the stems, and eventually it will kill that branch if you let it go too long. This particular fungal disease is very common on plums, cherries, even peaches sometimes get it. So basically anything that's in the stone fruit family can get this particular disease issue. It can also move over time. If you let it go, it may move down the branch and may even get into the main trunk of the tree, which is the last thing you want to happen, because once it gets in the trunk of the tree, there's really nothing you can do to save it. Eventually it will kill that tree. So this is something that you want to stay on top of and try to catch it early, and always be on the lookout for this particular disease. This particular fungus is actually very common in Georgia because we have wild plum trees called the American plum that grow all over Georgia out in the woods. So you can probably just walk, a few hundred yards out in the woods and you'd find an American plum or even a wild cherry out in the woods here. Again, they're native trees and they carry this disease. They get it all the time, and those spores are easily carried from the wild trees into your home orchard, and that's where your trees get infected. So this is something that, again, there's not a whole lot you can do to avoid it. Sooner or later, especially if you're growing plum trees in your backyard, you're going to get this. It's going to show up on your trees at some point. So you got to be aware of this and try to catch it early. So what do we do about it? Well, in this particular case, once the infection occurs, there's nothing we can do to treat that particular infection. The damage is done here. So the only option that we have is to actually prune it out. And so we can actually go in and cut out those cankers when we see them. A really good time to do that is in the winter, where you can see the whole tree, you can inspect it without any leaves on it, and make sure you cut them all out, especially in the winter time. But even in the summer, if you see a branch that's infected with a new infection, I would go ahead and get it out of there just to avoid and minimize it spreading even in the middle of the summer. When you do prune this out, it's very important that you take out at least 4 to 6 inches below where you see the last black knot. Because again, if you cut it too close, there may be some infection there in the stem that you don't quite see just yet, but it's actually there. So just like a cancer, we want to make sure we cut it all the way out and get it out of there so it doesn't come back. So when you cut it out, of course you don't want to leave this laying on the ground. You want to either burn this or haul it off, get it away from your tree as far as possible, and make sure you dispose of that so it doesn't reinfect your tree or spread spores around. Something else to think about is when you're cutting into these types of cankered branches is to use a disinfectant on your tools. So you could use rubbing alcohol, you could use a bleach solution. That's about a 1 to 9 bleach solution, 1 part bleach, 9 parts water diluted out. You can spray that on there. You can even use a Lysol concentrate disinfectant to sterilize those pruning shears and minimize spreading that disease when you make those cuts. That's really important to clean your tools, especially from tree to tree, but if you have the time, do it from cut to cut, especially if you know you're cutting into something that has this type of a canker disease. Another thing you can do that might help is if you have any wild plums or wild cherry trees that are nearby on your property, I would want to get rid of them because again, they're just going to be a constant source of inoculum and blowing those spores into your yard. And you're probably not going to be pruning or spraying those trees, so it's going to be a constant problem for you. So as a general rule of thumb, anything that's within 600 feet of your home orchard, you'd want to get rid of those wild plums or wild cherries to minimize the carryover of that disease. The last thing you can do to manage this is actually spraying with fungicides. Now, I would caution you, you cannot spray and cure a branch that's already infected. The fungicides only prevent new infections from occurring. So the timing is really important. In fact, the best time to spray for this disease is in early spring, right after the flowers have started to fall off, the petals are falling off the tree, and it's putting on a lot of new succulent growth and new leaves on the ends of those branches. That's when you want to spray it, in early spring. And there's a couple of different fungicides that you can use. Some of the products that are on the market are things like Captan or Daconil as a fungicide. So Daconil is the active ingredient chlorothalonil. There are some other brands out there. It really doesn't matter what brand you go with. And again, you can spray that. You'll want to get you a hose-in spray applicator because with a big tree like this, a little pump sprayer or backpack sprayer is probably not going to be very practical. So the hose end sprayers, if you can stretch a hose from your house out to your backyard tree, you can put this on the end of the hose and fill it up. It'll tell you on the label how many ounces per gallon, and there's actually a nice little dial on the top of these. You just put it right in according to the label, and then you spray down this tree. And you can do that within probably 10-20 seconds with one of these hose end sprayer applicators. It's the easiest way to do that. And again, you would want to do this in the spring, and you would need to reapply it probably every 14 to 21 days, especially when there's a lot of new growth coming out on that tree in the early spring. That's the most critical time to spray that. Again, that won't cure the tree. All it's going to do is prevent new infections from occurring. And something else to think about is rotating your fungicides. Don't use the same fungicide over and over and over, because eventually you can get resistance to that fungicide. Just like overuse of antibiotics. If we overuse any one thing, we're going to have resistance. So try a different product every year, mix it up, or even within the season you could try a different mode of action. A good rotation again would be between the chlorothalonil type products and Cap-10 fungicide, which are both labeled for fruit trees, and you can buy those at most local garden centers. So if you have any more questions about this particular disease that affects plums and peaches, or any other problems with your fruit trees, call your local county extension office at 1-800-ASK-UGA1 and continue to follow us on the Georgia Farm Monitor.